FOMO, it's real. And this year, it's a terminal illness that will strike you down the moment you touch social media, especially with the release of From Software's newest title, the massively open world RPG dodge jump attack game, Elden Ring. Now, many games receive the FOMO hype treatment for various reasons. A popular developer, an innovative approach to a genre, or maybe a massive existing fan base. Funny enough, all of these apply to Elden Ring. With their last title earning them Game of the Year, it begs the question, is Elden Ring really that good? I'm glad you asked that question, my young Padawan, because the answer is quite simple. Yes, it is. And after 200 hours of slaying monsters and definitely not dying, I'm here to provide you with the Grandmaster's review of Elden Ring. Now, in order to handle this review, we kind of have to go back through the history of From Software, just for a moment here, okay? Just bear with me. It was a sunny November 1st, right? Yeah, November 1st, 1986, when From Software was founded as a productivity software developer in Tokyo, Japan. They actually were founded in 1986, but they didn't make their first game until 1994, the year I was born. And that came in the form of PlayStation 1's launch title, King's Field. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, until making this review, I've never heard of this game. I've never heard of this game, but then again, I was a baby when PlayStation 1 came out, so I guess it makes sense. Now, however, the game merited 2 sequels before From Software moved on to other game projects like Echo Knight and Shadow Tower. Again, I've never heard of these games. Eventually, this led to the development of the Armored Core series, which, if you know, you know. Skip to the year 2009, Demon's Souls drops for the PS3 and gives From Software international attention, which allows them to be seen as one of the big dogs. Then, fast forward again, year 2011, the release of the first Dark Souls game comes out, and it's a smash hit. Shortly after, Miyazaki, the current president of From Software, becomes the president, leading all the way up until today. Soulsborne games are games consisting of dodging multiple times until you eventually just accept death and go outside for once, you frickin' Cheeto dust sniff. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. Other games take on this subgenre and create games that are clearly inspired by From Software's work. Games like The Surge or Neo, just to name a very few. I'm sure there's plenty other out there. Fast forward to 2019, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice is released and just blows the competition out of the water, earning multiple awards, praises, and the Game of the Year from the Game Awards as well. Setting up the killing blow this company planned to deliver to the industry in the year 2022, the year of this video being posted. Now, the newest release, Elden Ring, it's here, folks. Let me tell you something. We live in a world where games can be released at a 40 to 50% completion rate, and then over the months, the devs will release DLC, which in all reality, we know it's probably just delayed base game content. Some developers release games in such horrid states that the player base for said games will drop to under 2,000 players within 5 months of release? Clearly, they're doing something wrong. But this Elden Ring game? This might be the most complete from beginning to end game that I have played in years. Years. I know no game dev process is always 100% completion rate, but if I were to guess how close From Software got to the 100% mark, it would have to be around 100%. The game has a hilariously massive open world that begs you to explore it. A lore built into the environment through storytelling that has you wanting all the answers and even watching lore videos on YouTube about why General Radahn rides such a tiny little horse. Why doesn't he just get a bigger horse? He's a general. The different playstyles are all there too. They're all there. You want to be a mage? Go ahead. You want to be a knight? Go ahead. You want to be a samurai? Go ahead. You want to be an archer? Go ahead. You want to be a God-fearing assassin of the church? Go ahead. You want to be Rocky Balboa? Hey, yo, Adrian. You name it, you can pretty much do it. And it's pretty wild, to be very honest with you. I've never really seen a game that allows people to get this creative with their characters, specifically a From Software game. There's even people making custom characters out of pop culture figures like Thanos, Alucard from Castlevania, and yes, I know, even Will Smith. It's true. The variety is endless, and the ways to approach the game are as well. Unlike most Souls games, Elden Ring offers this magical new mechanic, revolutionary to the gaming industry. It's called walking away. You can literally be facing any boss in this game. Any boss, even the final boss in this game. And after maybe, I don't know, your 30th death, realize, hey, my Tarnish is not ready to fight Malenia, Blade of Mikola. Let me just walk away, go and explore the world and level up some more, and then I will return and be more prepared. Except for Malenia, Blade of Mikola. Unless, what's his name? Let Me Solo Her shows up in your summoning pool, your odds of winning are probably, 20-80. I'm gonna be honest with you. All right, she's annoying. She's probably one of the hardest bosses in the game. She's harder than the final boss in the game. But honestly, yeah, it's amazing to have the freedom to do that. Half the time, I would walk away from a boss. I would find myself in some cave or some dark dungeon dealing with a whole new challenge and its own boss. But I would succeed. I would overcome it. And it was really cool to walk away with more abilities, a new spell, some new armor, some new weapons, knowing that I'm going out of my way, finding these new areas that I'm taking care of. I'm clearing them out. I'm accomplishing my goals with these dungeons, all in the name of this one boss that I'm technically preparing myself to just give it my all. And it's such a rewarding process doing that. And it's because of that approach to the game that the game isn't as brutal and unforgiving as other Soulsborne games. Now, don't get it twisted. Do not get it confused. Elden Ring is a hard game. It is a hard game. Once you beat the game, that's a different story. But learning this game, especially if it's your first From Software game, this game can be very hard. And you know what? It was my first From Software game. But I love it. I love this game. Listen, Elden Ring is tough. So tough that I would find myself on the Elden Ring wiki. I would find myself on the Elden Ring wiki page, typing in my boss's names, looking up their weaknesses and seeing what in my inventory can I use against it. I caught myself doing this countless times because I was so stumped on how I can possibly beat this boss. Some bosses are really, they're just susceptible to certain damage types. There's bleeding, there's frost, there's scarlet rot. There's so many different status effects, poison, that you can apply to certain enemies in the game. And some of them, including the bosses, are very susceptible to these weaknesses. And if you know what you're doing, if you're very aware, either through the lore or maybe you just have a friend who told you, you can use those status effects on the boss and it'll make the boss fight 10 times easier by just having that little bit of knowledge to approach it. Because half the time, I'm sure multiple people, majority of the player base, will approach certain bosses with a blunt sword, and that's it. They won't pour holy juice on their katana. They won't call upon the gods above to give them strength. There's so many different status effects you can apply to yourself, you can apply to your weapons, and there's so many debuffing things that you can give the boss to make them not hit as hard, to make them take more damage. It is really in-depth, actually. Now let's talk about multiplayer for a second. It operates pretty much the same as previous Souls games, where you can either have somebody enter your world as a cooperator or an invader, and vice versa. You can do the same to their world. Lots of people are creating this insane builds and going into other people's worlds to either help them with a boss fight or murder them mercilessly. But to be very honest with you, the PvP is actually a lot of fun. It's pretty well balanced. Oh, I'm not going to say balanced because there are some weapons that are absolutely broken with how strong they can become. But the PvP in general, like the experience, it's pretty fun. It's really well done, I'd say. And it's very simple too. It's not too complex, you know? You go into somebody else's world, you either fight them, you help them with a boss, and then you go back to your world with your own set of rewards to bring back with you. And it's not a mandatory experience to play multiplayer in this game. I know a lot of games kind of require you to play online. They want you to play with other people online. You don't have to do that with this game. This game, first and foremost, is a single player RPG game. The multiplayer aspect of it is just a fun addition, but you don't have to experience it. You really don't. Aside from the messages you see laying throughout the world, some of them can be actually pretty helpful. People letting you know, like, hey, there's a demon to the left of this doorway. Watch out. Or they could be extremely meme-filled messages, including like telling you to melee a wall, when in reality nothing will happen. It's pretty cool though, honestly, when you have somebody from their world with their build show up into your game, and you've been struggling for hours fighting a boss, and then they walk in and they cast one spell, and they completely kill the boss in like 10 seconds. It is an incredibly humbling experience, and it is just awesome to see how badass some people are at this game. It's really cool. They'll just straight up just cast a spell, melt the boss, and look at you in the face and laugh as they just fade away into nothingness. Now, talking about these people with these insane builds, let's also discuss the topic of New Game Plus. New Game Plus is probably the best part of Elden Ring. I'm gonna be honest with you. And that's not to make the initial experience of the game sound any less than what it is. The game is phenomenal. But your first time around the lands between, you really find yourself struggling to fight some of these bosses. You know, maybe you used a summoning, or you had a friend come help you, or you just learned their patterns. But either way, it's going to take you time and effort to pass some of these big bads. And when you start New Game Plus, you carry over all your stats, all your weapons, all your armor, all your spells. You can approach bosses that you struggled with for hours, carrying over your Elden Lord build character from the previous game into this new one. And you can essentially be those people that I'm telling you about. You can walk up to some of these bosses and hit them with one move and kill them instantly, knowing that when you initially started this game, you were struggling like a little baby learning to walk. And it is easily the most rewarding, serotonin-filled experience of this entire game. Getting to go round 2 with some of these bosses is just awesome, knowing that you brought the meat to the barbecue. You know what I'm saying? They're really no match for you. Let's discuss the story. You play as a tarnished, essentially a nobody warrior who has been called back to the lands between to claim the Elden runes scattered throughout the world, and claim the Elden Ring for yourself and brandish yourself as the Elden Lord. Basically, you become the vessel of the greater will. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all you're given. Without understanding the lore, players can be left with a lot of questions. I get that, you know, like, why are the dogs so big in this game? They're the size of like a school bus. Why does Caelid suck balls? You know, and can Ranni the Witch be the wife I never knew I needed? I not me. I'm just, you know, for you, I'm married happily, but maybe you want an in-game wife or something, you know, and I'm sure there's a quest out there to do that. Maybe, I don't know. But honestly, having an understanding of the world that you explore really adds another layer of immersion to the gameplay experience. Hardcore lore fans will understand the Scarlet Rot, the Falling Stars, Radagon, and Marika, and why are they one person. Listen, it's a lot. These are all things that majority of players can find themselves lost with, if not paying close attention to their environments and to the cutscenes. Understanding the goal of the game, it's simple. It's super simple. But the ending you get is entirely based on the decisions you make through certain quest lines. There are 6 known endings so far in Elden Ring. And man, I'm gonna be honest, some of them just straight up suck. Like, it is a horrifying ending. I'm not going to say it's a bad ending. None of them are necessarily bad endings, but they have very dark and bitter endings in this game. But for those types of endings, you are going to see them coming. They're a bit more transparent because of the quest lines the things you are doing throughout these quest lines leading up to these endings. It's kind of obvious, like, the type of ending you're going to get. Does that make sense? But it's time. Let's wrap this up. Elden Ring. It has the things you didn't know you needed from a game these days. It feels so complete and cleaned up. It really serves as a role model for how game development should be. With a beautiful and horrifyingly dangerous world filled with the most dangerous monsters and sword-wielding dragons and gods, and a massive collection of different weapons and spells you can use, all the way to the builds you can make. This game is fantastic. It's what we needed in a world with microtransactions and incomplete content. For this game being my first review on the channel, it swung for the fences with the scoring. Elden Ring is finally here, but it's going to be talked about for years to come. Elden Ring gets a 10 out of 10. Hey, Marcus here, bringing you new content in the form of reviews, reactions, gameplay clips, and playthroughs. And this is honestly just the beginning. Hopefully you enjoyed the content. If you did, consider leaving a like on the video. It really helps me and the team get into the complex algorithm and makes my dog Zozo happy. To see more content, be sure to subscribe to the channel with the bell notification on, and I hope to see you in the dojo next time. Alright, bye.